What's good, Internet? My name is Attack Slug, and welcome back to my Raw reactions video for the week of May the 23rd, 2016. And yes, I will be getting to that SmackDown Live brand split news in my other video today in my career. But first and foremost, we must talk about what happened on Raw this past week. But obviously, some of this stuff could perhaps inform what is going to happen moving forward on the live SmackDown stuff. Anyway, we start Raw with a Seth Rollins promo, because obviously you would, because he returned at Money in the Bank. Or no, I'm sorry, Extreme Rules. I'm already thinking ahead. Extreme Rules. And he came out, and I was surprised they actually went right back into heel mode Seth Rollins, considering that he got obviously huge face pops at Extreme Rules, considering who he came out to, attack, because everyone's just booing Roman Reigns. And then, he came out to face pops here, and then he just kind of went, nope, I'm still a heel, more or less. And then out brings Roman Reigns, out comes Shane McMahon, and obviously you set up your super obvious Money in the Bank main event with Rollins versus Reigns. Sure, fine, okay. We move on to backstage with Sheamus, who apparently is mad about the new era. And, he's a former multiple-time world champion. What is there to get mad about? I don't know. But we'll get more into that in a little bit here. Our first Money in the Bank qualifying match is Sami Zayn versus Sheamus. And shockingly enough, Sami Zayn goes over clean on the former world champion Sheamus. And Sheamus is real unhappy about it. And that was interesting, because, usually Sami Zayn's, the underdog in most of these matches and kind of just wins not very often. But that's kind of his gimmick, more or less. He overcomes the odds. Anyway, this leads to a backstage segment with Sheamus still being very upset about, the new era and beating the crap out of Apollo Crews backstage, who was doing an interview with Renee Young or JoJo or one of them, and gets beat up here. This will be significant in a little bit, and we'll get back to that. But they went back to the ring here, and it is The New Day comes out with a cake, and they are celebrating a birthday, and that's not how birthdays work. So the cake says 1200. It was episode 1200 of Raw, and they were celebrating Raw's birthday. That's not how birthdays work. Birthdays are once a year. Birthdays are not once a week. You could say anniversary. Even anniversary is like a once a year thing. There's got to be a different word, phrase, term for what Raw is. And having I don't mind having the cake, obviously, but it's not a birthday, and it's not an anniversary, so what do you call it? I don't know. Anyway, this brings out the Social Outcasts to have a match with The New Day, which they lose in a pretty short fashion, and then Heath Slater gets a cake to the face, because of course, you have a cake in a ring, or, near a ring, in a wrestling show, that cake is going in somebody's face. I like that Big E at least acknowledged that. I didn't understand why he was threatening to put the cake on the crowd, on the announcers. That's not a very face thing to do. Obviously, The New Day are faces now, so that was kind of confusing. But hey, good to see these Social Outcasts, that are now a trio, because there's no more Adam Rose on Raw. Anyway, moving on to our next Money in the Bank qualifier, it is Lopez versus Cesaro. And The Miz really just has put on his work boots lately, and is putting on matches that are entertaining as hell, and perhaps it's just having the right guys to work with, but I've been enjoying his work as of late, and they had a thing here that I normally don't like, which is, hey, somebody who isn't the champion, pin the champion. How are they going to resolve that? And it seems like they're going to have a match on SmackDown this week for the IC title, so, this is a short resolution. But it always is super obvious to me when somebody like the IC champ gets a spot in Money in the Bank. They usually, when have those qualifiers, they usually don't win, because it's hey, he already has the IC belt, so why would he want to win, or why would they let him win the qualifier for the Money in the Bank to cash in on the world title? They are certainly not going to unify the IC belt and the world belt. Come on now. Anyway, moving on, we had a Seth Rollins and Steph interaction backstage, which kind of may have sowed the seeds for the eventual return of Triple H to put the boots to Rollins, because Rollins is still using the pedigree. You know, obviously before he left, they were very heavy in the Authority era, so that's kind of, you know, sow some seeds there, because obviously no one's seen Triple H since WrestleMania, so that's kind of going to end up being a thing at some point, right? Right? Anyway, I would certainly expect to see, possibly have Triple H back for SummerSlam, which is, you know, one of their 4 big shows. Anyway, your next Money in the Bank qualifier is Chris Jericho versus Apollo Crews. First thing to note, Chris Jericho with perhaps way too many Band-Aids on is a great heel move. Which, feel sorry for me. I got hurt with those fucking thumbtacks, and if I had to guess, there were even more Band-Aids than even were necessary, because that's, you know, the kind of the perfect heel thing to do there. And Apollo Crews, what the fuck? Apollo Crews got beat down by Sheamus, and he comes out to the ring for this match like not even an hour later, just fine, doing his usual taunts, doing his usual ring entrance. Like, it all felt the exact same thing that you would normally have if he had not been beaten down backstage. I know he's still pretty fresh in terms of, you know, the business and how their TV scheduling works and whatever else, and perhaps they filmed that backstage stuff way earlier in the day and he just kind of forgot about it. I don't know, but somebody should have told him before he walked out the fucking curtain, sell your fucking neck or something, because that's how wrestling works. You're trying to suspend disbelief. Anyway, shockingly enough here, Chris Jericho wins. You would have thought, okay, put the new guy, you know, don't have him win Money in the Bank, but put him in Money in the Bank. Like, didn't they have Neville in last year? Like, put the new guy in Money in the Bank, because that would make sense. So I think, in my head, A, they're going to set up a Sheamus-Apollo Crews feud, and B, that feud's going to be on SmackDown, because nobody's going to care about SmackDown, still. Anyway, we had another re-airing of a Bob Backlund thing, and as dumb as this stuff is, I still love Bob Backlund. I can't hate on that stuff at all, because I'm just still a huge fan of Bob Backlund. Whatever he does is phenomenal, even if I don't care about Darren Young. Anyway, backstage with Baron Corbin and Dolph Ziggler. And Dolph Ziggler's mad that Baron Corbin won a match with a ball shot, but it was a no DQ match. So honestly, even though I'm assuming that Baron Corbin is supposed to be the heel here, I'm siding with Baron Corbin, because what he's saying makes fucking sense. Whereas Dolph Ziggler is like, you didn't beat me with technical wrestling ability. And I'm like, this is like your 4th match. How are your other matches not technical wrestling? What the fuck in 2016 is a technical wrestling match? Catch as catch can? Like, what the fuck does that even mean? And who fucking cares? And then Dolph Ziggler says, hey, I'm going to go out and show you how it's done. And we'll get into that in a minute here. Anyway, next segment was Big Cass and the return of Enzo Amore. And we had a singles match with Big Cass versus Bubba Ray. So this kind of thing is just kind of on repeat for a little bit here. That's fine. Glad to see Enzo back. And obviously, Big Cass won that match in a pretty short fashion. Anyway, let's get this pinfall here and then move on. 2, 3. Anyway, we move on to this Charlotte, Ric Flair, Dana Brooke segment, which I thought the material here was good. You're finally splitting up Charlotte and Ric Flair. You're having Charlotte do this super heel thing and saying, look, Dad, I don't need you anymore. I understand now in my childhood what it was, why you were always gone. Like, the material was good, but the crowd started doing the what chant, and it just, I don't know if it was the delivery or, like, it was good, but I would imagine with the crowd that was actually paying attention, it could have been so much better. Anyway, long story short, Charlotte kicks Ric Flair to the curb, says she doesn't need him, and she is still aligned with Dana Brooke. And that means that essentially Dana Brooke is the Arn Anderson to Charlotte. And that's fantastic. I am all for having that same dynamic. That works for me. And they even hammered it home by having Ric Flair as the sad old man leaving and running into Arn Anderson backstage later on in the evening. So thumbs up on that. So yeah, I've been saying for months now that Charlotte's not going to lose that belt until they separate her from Ric Flair, so he can't keep cheating. But I didn't take into account them giving her an Arn Anderson. So until now they separate those two, then you're not going to see her lose the belt, because that's just going to be shenanigans. It's going to be the same old classic Flair shit, and that's fine. That's how wrestling works. Anyway, our next match of the evening was another Money in the Bank qualifier. It was Dean Ambrose versus Dolph Ziggler. This match here. And so for all of Dolph Ziggler's, hey, I'm going to go out there and show you technical wrestling, blah, 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 and then he lost because Ambrose won. Because obviously you're going to put Ambrose in Money in the Bank and not Dolph Ziggler. Come on now. Now this certainly does offer up a little bit of interestingness for Money in the Bank when you consider that you're going to have Seth Rollins in the main event. You're going to have Roman Reigns in the main event. Now, what if you had Dean Ambrose win Money in the Bank and then wanted to come interfere in that world title match? Always a possibility. Anyway, it's going to be curious if they decide whether or not they're going to add a second Money in the Bank match, because obviously now you're going to have SmackDown as its own live show with a brand split and a draft. So are you going to have another world title or not? These are all questions you don't know yet, and obviously I will discuss that much more in my other video later on today. So, we had another promo for the Shining Stars, who were gloating about their win last week and the crowd noise, and there wasn't any, which is real funny. So I don't know that that's their way of acknowledging that and making fun of that. I don't know. But certainly I can tell you right now, the Shining Stars are going to be on SmackDown. Come on. Anyway, our main event is another Money in the Bank qualifier. It is AJ Styles versus Kevin Owens. And before the match, AJ comes out and basically says, you know, I'm not going to be in the club anymore. They cost me that match at Extreme Rules, etc., etc. So, yeah. I guess there's no more club. They wouldn't too sweet him. They wouldn't too sweet him. Now, does that set up for the eventual, you know, bringing up Finn Balor and having Finn Balor and AJ, you know, fight for the club or whatever? I don't know. That sounds like a SmackDown feud to me. Just saying. So, yeah, we had this match. I don't know if AJ Styles is trying to hurt his back on purpose. But, man, between Extreme Rules and Raw, it sure fucking seems like it. Because he took a powerbomb on the goddamn steel steps. That man is insane. Like, he's known for having a bad back. Like, he got into, like, DDP yoga and whatnot, but still, like, you don't want to exacerbate the issue unless you're trying to retire and just say, no, you know what, just fuck it all up. Just fuck it all up. Whatever. I don't know. Anyway, that was Raw, more or less. Let me know what you think. I'm a tax, like, more videos every day, and I'll see you next time right here on this channel. And I'm out.